Thanks for joining us for another Barside Chat here at the 9 Bar, Fitzgerald's Bicycles. We are taking you down to sunny Arizona today, if you haven't noticed, to talk about Pivot bicycles.
Yeah, Pivots are sweet bikes. How long have we had them in the shop?
We've had them in the shop about 5 years now, so we've been, I would say, one of the longer Pivot dealers. The reason why we've been carrying Pivot for so long is that we were a Titus dealer. And a lot of people don't realize that Pivot is sort of the progression of Titus. So Titus was founded by a guy named Chris Kakalis, really fantastic bicycle designer, engineer, and rider. And you know, he brought Titus along for many years and developed that reputation for an awesome riding bike with great quality. Chris came back into the bicycle industry about 5 years ago with this new brand, Pivot, and we decided to pick them up because everything Chris has done in the past has been really awesome.
I know there's a little bit of a story about how the machine parts are made here in the US, but a lot of the bikes are made in Taiwan, right?
Yeah, definitely. You know, what I heard from Chris himself was that they were really hoping to make the aluminum Pivot mountain bikes entirely in the United States when they first launched the brand. Unfortunately, it's really hard for a US manufacturer to get the finishing processes done after they weld a frame.
Let's talk about some of the quality controls that Pivot puts into their bikes.
They spend extra time making sure that the bikes are welded correctly, machined correctly, and assembled correctly. Most people realize that pivots are really, at the heart of a pivot is the DW Link suspension.
Right.
We've talked about that in some other Barside chats. DW Link suspension and all the mini Link suspensions, it really calls for tight tolerances.
Right.
You know, if you make a lot of moving parts happen in very small places on a bike, and then the tolerances between each of those interfaces isn't spot on, you can really develop a lot of flex, and a lot of inconsistencies in the ride quality. So the quality control that Pivot puts in, I would say, is unsurpassed in the industry, so that they don't ride like every other DW Link bike out there. They're the stiffest laterally on the market, and you really notice it. You know, when you come into a corner on a Pivot mountain bike, it tracks, it holds a line, and it just has this amazing ride quality that makes people really stoked.
Sweet.
So what Chris and Pivot decided to do was keep the R&D and the prototyping still in the US. So they do have a full machine shop in Arizona, and they have a full production facility there.
Right.
And some of the bikes are actually still produced in the US. And they actually build the jigs and the machining equipment that helps the welders put the bikes together. They build that in the US also.
Yeah.
Then they send that over to Asia. And Chris goes with that equipment and those tools, and he goes over and actually personally trains the welders over there. One of the other unique things about Pivot is that they do not have their bikes made welded in a factory that's making all kinds of other brands of bikes. Right,
it just pivots in that factory.
Exactly, it's a small shop, they're all personally trained, they're hand welded frames.
And you can see it when we get a close-up of these welds on this bike. They're gorgeous, they're really beautiful.
They are, absolutely. So the combination between the DW Link engineering, the longer stroke shock, and Chris's personal design on the bikes has made this really phenomenal ride quality that allows you to have sort of the best of all worlds.
So let's talk about some of the things that Pivot sort of pioneered.
Yeah, they're still a small player in the bike industry, but they're leading the way in so many areas. First bike company to develop press fit BD86 with Shimano. In conjunction with that, they're also one of the first companies to develop the direct mount front derailleur.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't realize that. And if you look on their Firebird bikes, they actually have a patented front derailleur mount that actuates with the suspension design. But one thing that I really appreciate about Pivot, they don't rush into things. They took the time to do it right. You know, not just in the ride quality of the bike, but in the design features of the bike too. There's a lot of attention to detail. We're going to have an assortment of models all summer long, from the 429s, 57s, we'll have some Firebirds rolling through, the less. We generally special order Mach 4s if somebody's interested in that. We have more of that bigger wheel or long travel customers. So, you know, we're really versed in all models of Pivot, so just hit us up. Tell us what you need.
That was a lot of information about Pivot.
Yeah, definitely. We're really behind this brand, and come and check it out. We've got a demo fleet of Pivots, so come by and go for a ride.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Giddy up, it's ride time.
Yeah.